It is Tuesday, the 12th of November, 2024, and we are doing day number 126 of 10 random Magic cards rated. You guys ready? That's a whole intro right there, baby. Let's get past it. Shadow Blood Egg, only ever printed in Odyssey. This is a single mana for an artifact. You can pay 2, tap it, and sack it to add black-red to your mana pool and draw a card. Well, I think people just play talismans and stuff instead of this most of the time. It's not that good. It doesn't actually ramp you at all. It just fixes your mana. You draw a card, so it's just kind of there. It's not actually that good. I'm gonna give this a 4. No, I'm not. I'm gonna give this card a 3.5. Actually, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, get this out of my face. This actually isn't that good at all, man. I'll draw a card sometimes. Everybody likes to draw a card, but when all's said and done. Boo, So let's move on to Overgrown Pest here from March of the Machine. 3 mana, 2 and a green for a 2/2 Pest. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 of your library. You can reveal a land or double-faced card from among them. Put that thing into your hand, put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random hors d'oeuvre. So that's not good. Compared to everything else you can do for 3 mana, it's not very good. And I don't just mean in Standard, I mean like in the game of Magic. But I don't mind like a 3-drop to put something in my hand. I just think that like in this day and age, it has to, I don't know, be more than a 2/2 or something. So just the fact that this guy's like kind of cute, although in real life he'd be like terrifying. But in this rendering, like, I don't know, he's kind of, what intimidating teeth. He's such a cutie patootie. I don't know why I have that reaction. But I am going to give the card, I get 3.8 because it puts a card in your hand. It puts a card in your hand, but also you'll never play it. That's what like the 3.5 to 3.9 range is for, right? Like, okay, this is fine, but also terrible somehow. Let's move on to Mind Stone. We've already done Mind Stone, but this is one of my favorite rocks of all time. I like to rock, and Mind Stone's one of my favorite ways to do it. We'll move on to Ephemeral Shields from Magic 2015. This is 2 mana, 1 on a white for an instant with Convoke. Your creatures can help cast this spell. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So this could be free. This could be a free indestructibility spell if you have a couple of dudes to tap down. But still kind of not impressing me that much, you know what I mean? Not that much. I think you'd rather a lot of times just opt for a spell that just costs 1 and does the same thing, but like has potential upside and stuff. But I don't know. Save a guy spells like counter or removal spells they're always okay. And like this also helps in like combat and stuff, so it's not that bad. I tend to like indestructible slightly more than hexproof in these situations because again, indestructible is useful like against removal and also against combat situations. But obviously hexproof is better against like exile removal, so pick your spots. Kind of it's a bit of a wash at the end, but still I think that this is like again like a 3.9, right? It's like a 3.99. I'm not going to quite push it into 4 because again, these counter spell or removal spell things are like they're fine. This one can even be free, and that's actually very attractive. But I still think like it's not as good as like a lot of the spells that do similar things because those spells give you upside. So 3.9, it looks really good and you probably won't play it. So move on to Powder Ganger here. I think that's correct. Powder Ganger? It's Ganger. He's a guy in the Powder Gang. He's a Powder Ganger. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 2/2 human rogue with Squad 2 as an additional cost to cast the spell. You may pay 2 any number of times. This creature enters the battlefield, you get that many tokens that are copies of it. When Powder Ganger enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact. So if you pay 5 mana, you get 2 copies of this guy. You pay 7 mana, you get 3 copies of this guy. It's actually not bad. It's not bad. If you want to, you can get a 7-cent copy of this that looks exactly the same as the one we were just on that cost 88 cents. Figure it out. I don't know. Maybe it's foil. Whatever. But actually, don't hate this. It's like a new Tabi orangutan sort of that like you can get multiple copies of, which is fine. And like, you're playing Commander, you're going to have like 7 artifacts you want to blow up. So like even just being able to blow up 2 or 3 is okay. I don't hate this. Yeah, it's really not that bad, man. 4.69. I think it's kind of nice. I really do. I'd play this probably. It's one of those things. It's like, you got what, 65 slots in your Commander deck? Are you going to play this? Is it going to make the slots? I don't think so most of the time. Probably not, which is why I'm not really going to approach 5 with it. But I said there's some good value on this. There really is. Next is Field of Ruin. Ooh, it's Field of Ruin, everybody. This is a good-looking one from Tales of Middle-earth Commander. I'd never seen this. It's a very pretty Field of Ruin. This is the one you want, though. Right? It's like $3 for the old school. God, yellow text box. Bring it back. Oh, I miss this land border so much, man. But Field of Ruin is a land. It taps for a colorless. You can pay 2 and tap it and sack it to destroy a non-basic land an opponent controls. Each player searches their library for a basic, puts on the battlefield, shuffle up their library. This is originally from Ixalan, is that correct? Yes, it is, in fact. So, what do you give this? So it's not, obviously it's not as good as like Wasteland, right? But it's like a take on Wasteland that they think is fair in the, the modern era of standard Magic. And it's good. It's good. It blows up creature lands, which is like the primary focus. But, you probably want to pack it to take care of Fountain Ports and Mirror X's, right? Lands are really good nowadays. So I think Field of Ruin is pretty necessary in like your monocolored deck. Nowadays, I think most like dual color and even 3-color decks that play Fountain Port would rather play Fountain Port than Field of Ruin. It's like, oh, my opponent might have Fountain Port. So do I. Who cares? So you just don't see too many fields anymore because, I don't know, creature lands aren't as in vogue as they once were, but Field will always be a good card, and I'm going to give this a 5.37. I think it's very good. I think it is. I think it's playable in multiple formats, even, especially depending on like what's going on in the mana bases. But next is Personal Incarnation, man. I used to love this card so much. This is, God, 4th edition one, man. Look at that revised. I bet Unlimited looks really good. Yeah, look at that coloration. This is amazing. 6 mana with the art that 11-year-old dev loved, like almost the most. You know, Kev Brockschmidt art. I like everything Kev Brockschmidt did. I'm pretty sure he did Dwarven Demolition Team as well. I love that card art. Anyway, 6 mana, 3 and 3 white for a 6/6 avatar. Caster, let's read this, how this is supposed to actually read in modern day parlance. For 0 mana, you can activate this guy. The next 1 damage that would be dealt to Personal Incarnation this turn is dealt to its owner instead. Its controller. Wait, it says owner. The Oracle text says owner. Only Personal Incarnation's owner may activate this ability. When Incarnation dies, its owner loses half their life rounded up. So that's a pretty bad death trigger, right? It's a really terrible death trigger. But when I was 11 and I first started playing Magic like this, I love this card so much. So much. This is probably one of the reasons that I like Sarah Avatar so much when it came out in Urza's Saga. I just had a whole thing about that card a week or so ago on the same series. And this card probably influenced my love of that card a good bit. Look at the wizard in the background, like top right of the card art, like summoning the avatar. And he's got like a ball up in the air that the lightning's coming out of, like creating the avatar. It's so sick. It's such sick art. I love this. But the card itself is bad, and I have to admit to myself the card is just terrible. It's not good, but back in the day, it was one of the very few 6/6s in Magic. Not to, you know what I mean? Like, if you're playing against anything but green, maybe you're playing against Lord of the Pit or something, but if you're playing against most things that aren't like green, like they just don't have an answer. 6/6, you know what I mean? Combat-wise, they just ain't doing it. So I miss PI. I really do, but the card's terrible. Honorary 5. What is the honorary 5 for? If not Personal Incarnation. Let's find out if the next card is much more suited to that. Psychotic Haze from Torment. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 black for an instant that deals 1 damage to each creature and each player, but you can madness this for 1 and a black. So if you discard it for any reason, you can just pay the madness cost and cast the card. You really want to madness this, don't you? If you don't, it's real bad. And even if you do madness it, it's oh my goodness. It's a card from Homelands. Dry Spell? It's Dry Spell if you madness it. And Dry Spell's not great. So, I don't know. Maybe out of the board. This is pretty atrocious, though. No, it's a sweeper. Like, it probably 2 for 1s or more, right? It probably gets you value on most boards. Pick up tokens, whatever. So if you can madness it, it's fine. I will give this a 3.49. Sure. 3.49. It's a sweep, right? It sweeps. It takes a couple of things off the table, and it goes face. for a damage, but whatever. Yeah. It might enable something. We'll move on to Witch's Oven, buddy. This is 1 mana for an artifact that a couple of years ago everyone in Standard was just done with. This is still like $2 though. It's a good artifact. You can tap it and sack a creature to create a food token. If the sacrificed creature's toughness was 4 or greater, you get 2 food tokens instead. So if you have to shove something particularly large in there, you can eat twice off of it, which I think is hilarious flavor. But I think one of the only things that in Standard was ever shoved into this was a cat over and over, which is the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. But Cauldron Familiar, cat combo as we called it, was a deck that I loved very much. And it was also the last time Aristocrats, like Aristocats, if you will, was really playable in Standard. And I guess they learned a lesson because for the last few years, we have not been able to play an Aristocats deck. It's not going to happen. I said Aristocats on accident that time, but I guess I'll stick with it. Witch's Oven is great, though. You know, even in Commander, it's one of those things where, you know, they target your guy with a removal spell, or especially an exile spell. You know, you just like, oh, I'll sacrifice him then. Fizzle the removal spell, put the guy in my yard. That's where I want him anyway. I'll take a food token. It's still a great card. Still really is. And I guess if you're gonna play like Pioneer or something in paper, then maybe you want some copies of the card. But yeah, just a fantastic Magic card on a lot of levels, man. Great for food decks too, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I guess it is for those. But obviously, like, you know, LSO Core and other sack decks are gonna always play this. So I'm gonna put you guys are gonna be like, what? I'm gonna put a 6.5 on this bad boy right here. It just does too much. You know, Standard pedigree, Pioneer pedigree of some kind. A little bit, right? It has seen play in Modern time after time, or time to time, I should say, not necessarily time after time. And it's a played Commander card in a bunch of different kind of aristocratsy decks. So, yeah, I think 6.5 is warranted for Witch's Oven. It's just such an annoyance. It really is, man. No matter where it pops up. Joyride Rigger is up next. This is from Unstable, so it doesn't count. It's an uncard. Don't like them. Let's move on to Chittering Rats. Oh my God, Chittering Rats. This is from Darksteel. Speaking of annoying cards, man, this is 3 mana, 1 and 2 black for a 2/2 rat. When it comes into play, target opponent puts a card from his or her hand on top of his or her library. It doesn't seem like much, right? Don't seem like no big deal. You don't know what you're talking about. Chittering Rats is so irritating, man. Like, even if they just cast it, you think this is just like a worse burglar rats, right? Like, they get the card back. It doesn't even go in their yard. No. What this actually does is replace their next draw step. And I don't know if you've ever played Magic, but you're hoping to draw something on your next turn that you didn't already previously have in your hand. It's like being time walked on a body. Like, in some cases, it really, really is. And there were decks back in the day that used, Crystal Shard to blink this over and over, and like your opponent never actually gets to draw a card ever again. And like if you go to remove Chittering Rats, they'll just use the shard to blink the rats, so your removal spell fizzles and you put a card back on top. It just kind of soft locked if the board state is, you know, the way your opponent wants to be when they get rats down. They have enough mana to blink it. Just what a card, dude. I mean, Chittering Rats, I'm glad that I'll never have to play against this in Standard with, you know, again, all these ways of like blinking it every turn. I'm very happy. That was the same deck. By the way, that deck used, it was like Soul Tie, and it used Eternal Witness too, and it would like blink its Eternal Witness with the Crystal Shard. God, that deck was amazing. but Chittering Rats definitely had like a place in Magic history because of that. And if you've never played against it, I want you to be thankful for at least one thing in your life, and it is that, right? So, Chittering Rats. I'm gonna give this like a 4.7 because it's not actually amazing or anything, but it did do stuff, and it honestly kind of scarred me. It really did. It really did. I remember slowly realizing after the 4th time I drew the same card that like, I'm never actually drawing another card from my library again. Am I? I'm not actually gonna ever do that, man. Magic. So just be happy you haven't gone through that experience. Next and last here is Auriok Glaivemaster from Darksteel, a single white mana for a 1/1 human soldier. As long as it's equipped, it gets +1/+1 and has first strike. Are you gonna put it in your equipment decks? I don't know that you will. I don't know that you will. There might just be better 1-drops, but there was a point at which this was a decent equipment 1-drop. You know, it was kind of playable. So for old time's sake, I will bump this card to a 4 from what I will really want to give. It was like a 2.9, you know. But honestly, it's a really low investment for what you're actually getting out of it once it is equipped, and it's not too hard to equip it. So let's give it some love. I'll throw a 4 its way. And that is all for Tuesday, everybody. Let me know how you felt about all this stuff down there in the comments section. What's it for otherwise? And I'll see y'all later. Bye.